Well, John Francome, you recently retired as the sort of the Injured Jockeys Fund Supremo. Jockeys, of course, a prime concern of yours, but the horses as well. And I think for the public, they have a bet on a horse and they've ridden once or twice. What responsibility do we have for the retired racehorses?
Well, I think we have total responsibility. I mean, you would think that in this day and age and the amount of money that comes into racing, and to be fair, racing gives quite a little bit of money, quite a large chunk of money.
They do more now than they used to.
Oh yeah, they do a large chunk of money to quite a few charities. You wouldn't think that there'd be a problem. Only last week, a horse that Clive Cox used to train called Conquisto, you want a big handicap up at Haydock. He went to Steve Gollins. Steve Gollins won a big handicap on over hurdles with him, ended up with Brian Ellison. Anyway, through one thing or another, ended up in the field in really, really poor condition. This was a horse that had won the best part of £200,000. So it's still happening, so we still have to be vigilant, and the more people that we can get to take these horses and rehome them. But what a lot of the problem, John, is the fact that, you know, in 1900 there were 200,000 horses working in London alone. People saw horses every day. They knew how to deal with them. They knew what was going on. Today, so few people see them, and so there are fewer outlets for them when they actually retire. And you know, you've got to be a competent rider. There are very few racehorses that you can say, right, okay, well, we'll stick anybody on them.
What responsibility do owners have?
I think complete responsibility. I don't think you can just dump them. You know, they're amazing creatures. You know, when you look back through what they've done, they virtually built this country. Horses, racehorses, they give you pleasure, they do their best, and you can't just dump them on the side of the road. You know, it's not like a cardboard box or something. You've got to make sure that where they're going, they're going to be kept. You know, you can't just stick them in a field immediately. They've got to be kept warm. They've got to be fed and looked after.
Now, if we don't look after our old warriors, who else will? So what more can racing do to look after the family of racing, which includes the horses, of course?
Well, I think all we can do is support the people like Helen Eden at Greatwood, and you know, there are quite a few different support networks now, and we just got to get behind them and support them financially as best we can.
As I said, you were involved very heavily with the Injured Jockeys Fund, looking after jockeys, and so much has improved since Paddy Broderick and all that 30 or 40 years ago. With horses, it seems to be on the public agenda, probably more than jockeys actually, isn't it?
Well, it is, but when it comes to actually grabbing the public's imagination, for whatever reason, thankfully, people tend to be more inclined to donate towards the Injured Jockeys Fund. But I'm sure that as time goes on, you know, we'll get people around to saying, you know, the racehorses want looking after as well.
Retraining of racehorses, what else can they do? Helen Eden at Greatwood, for instance, has disabled kids and afflicted youngsters getting on, just sitting on a horse, being helped. It's a fantastic thing for them. They can do dressage and all the other things. What else can a racehorse do to make its life acceptable and deserving of what they've done in the past?
Well, there's like a lot of human beings. It's down to their temperament, how they're bred, and how they've been trained and brought up. Some are really well mannered. I've always said one of the best mannered horses I've ever ridden in my life was a horse that won the Gold Cup called Looks Like Trouble. He was absolutely
a gentleman.
He was absolutely. You could have done anything with him.
But how about the more recalcitrant ones and the ones?
Well, the ones like you just put a bullet in their head, John. But
especially if they're so fat as well.
Well, you know, pulling a cart springs to mind. But by and large, you know, within reason, you can teach them to do anything. And once people have ridden a thoroughbred, they very seldom want to go back to anything else because they've got so much more about them. They're much more active. You know, it's like driving an Aston Martin when you've been driving a Ford Mondeo. You know, so once you get accustomed to them, you don't want to go back. But it's making that initial step. But within reason, you know, you can train them to do anything.
Well, the greatest jockeys, you know, he was champion jockey. Was it 7? How many times? Was it 7?
You must have missed winding me up over the last 3 years, and I suddenly remember why I don't want to do the TV anymore, isn't that? Thank you very much.
Champion jockey 7 times, putting
Anyway,
in a
well
plea for the wonderful animals that keep our sport going. John Francome, thanks, greatest.